And it is Game On 2012, and we begin with President Obama launching a three-day tour across key election states after drawing a clear line against his Republican foils in his State of the Union address. The president began his tour in Iowa today, resounding, as he did last night, the central issue of his presidency, preserving the American dream for all in this country.
They do believe that if they work hard, they should be able to achieve that small measure of an American dream. That's what this country is about. That's what you deserve. This country only exists because generations of Americans worked together and looked out for each other and believe that, we're stronger when we rise together.
And if you heard the suggestion of a certain challenge there towards particular Republican candidates, well, the president was even more pointed in his language last night.
We don't begrudge financial success in this country. We admire it. When Americans talk about folks like me paying my fair share of taxes, it's not because they envy the rich. It's because they understand that when I get a tax break I don't need and the country can't afford, it either adds to the deficit or somebody else has to make up the difference.
Of course, cameras may not have captured the grimace on Mitt Romney's face, but you can bet it was there. And this morning, Governor Romney blasted the president for being out of touch in an interview with CNBC's Larry Kudlow, to be broadcast tonight.
He is completely detached from the reality of what's happening in America. And his prescription that somehow we need to find someone to blame, whether it's the bankers or people who make a lot of money. We got to find someone to blame.
The president detached from reality? That's a bit rich from someone who pays 14% tax on $27 million and wants to cut his own taxes by half. Try telling that to your Swiss banker, Mitt. I'm sure Anders could lend an ear. The fact is, your wealthy peers like Bill Gates agree with the president.
The United States has a huge budget deficit, so taxes are going to have to go up. And I certainly agree they should go up more on the rich than everyone else. That's just justice. I don't feel like people like myself are paying as much as we should.
Smart guy, Bill Gates. As for Newt Gingrich, he went further, donning his professorial mortarboard for his friends at Fox and suggesting the president is intellectually challenged on his own policies.
What you don't know with Obama is whether he has a clue what it meant when he said it. But he said he wants a 30% minimum tax on people with $1 million income. That if you have capital gains, that would double your capital gains tax.
We're pretty sure he understands that, Mr. Gingrich. But of course, we know that according to Newt, nobody understands anything as well as him. Least of all anyone in the media, as Gingrich proved today, blasting Univision's Jorge Ramos for asking pertinent questions.
When you were Speaker of the House, you criticized President Clinton for having an extramarital affair.
No, I criticized President Clinton for lying under oath in front of a federal judge.
But people think that's hypocritical to criticize President Clinton for doing the same thing that you were doing at the same time.
Okay, there's some place here where there's a mental synapse missing. I didn't do the same thing. I have never lied under oath. I have never committed perjury. I have never been involved in a felony. He was.
We have got a triple panel to kick things off. In Washington, Democratic strategist Julian Epstein. And here in New York, a special guest appearance live by Anna Marie Cox, correspondent for The Guardian, and the always welcome and more local Joy-Ann Reid, MSNBC contributor and managing editor of thegrio.com. I want to start with you, Julian. The president is detached from reality. Isn't that a bit rich coming from, apologies for the pun, Mitt Romney?
Yeah, I think it's a time-worn and increasingly silly argument. If I had one complaint about this president, it would be that he has not taken enough credit for his own economic successes. If you look at where we were when he came into office, the economy was shrinking at almost 8% a year. It's now growing at almost 2.5% a year. We were losing 800,000 jobs a month. We're now gaining a couple 100,000. We've had 22 months of consecutive private sector growth. We've created 2.3 million jobs. The stock market was at 6,000. 7. It's now closer to 11. Look at all the successes he's had in terms of saving the financial industry, saving the auto industry, the bin Laden success, the successes in foreign affairs. If there's one complaint I have is that this administration has not done a good enough job in taking the credit for rescuing this economy from the brink of economic disaster. The reason for that is the White House has always been worried it's hard to do that when you've got 8.5% unemployment. I think the American people are smarter than that. I think they understand the trends are in the right direction, and that credit goes to Obama for the intelligent use of government when the country needed it most.
Okay, Anna Marie, in the world of Newtopia, a world of brain science, of history,
space,
no lobbying whatsoever, Newt Gingrich, is he the superior species?
He's the giant brain that, controls everything. I think he actually kind of looks like a giant brain. I mean, it's a stretch to call him an evil genius. I mean, at least half that equation is right. I'm sure he would probably think the whole thing is right.
But he tells the president that the president doesn't know what he's talking about, and he can even tell us where Fidel Castro is going in the afterlife, because he tells us that he's going to hell.
That's
right.
Is
there anything that Newt doesn't know?
I think that he apparently does not know his wives very well. He cannot successfully predict their reactions to his behavior. But other than that, yes, he seems to be totally on top of, if not what everyone is doing and thinking, what they should be doing.
What they should be doing. Joyanne, the president yesterday spoke about the issue of inequality.
Right.
And he spoke about a taxation system that needs to be changed. A taxation system that Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, you just heard him, believe is unfairly beneficial to the rich. Right. Why doesn't Eric Cantor, Newt Gingrich, Mitt Romney, John Boehner, why do they reject that simple notion that the taxation system should be fair for everybody?
Well, I mean, I think, Martin, and this is a case where you have to know a man by who he works for, right? And Eric Cantor and John Boehner and these guys, their client is the plutocracy, the 1%. And the guys on Wall Street who are angry at Barack Obama because he wouldn't fit them at the White House will not tolerate them doing something like that. The Chamber of Commerce will not tolerate the Republicans at this stage walking away from them. They are joined at the hip to the 1%, and they're owning it. And I don't understand it either. It's inexplicable. They're not just ceding to Barack Obama the fairness issue, but they're ceding to him the optimism issue. They're ceding to him the values issue. They're letting him have all of that, and all they've got is negativity.
I'm nodding because I feel like when you hear Obama's speech compared to the speeches of the GOP candidates, what you hear from Obama is working together, trying to raise each other up. I mean, it's a very a common goal kind of thing. And
egalitarian and fraternal.
Right, and what you hear from almost all of the candidates, except actually I would say Rick Santorum does not really sound like this, is you are out for yourself, I am out for myself. What we need to do is to let each other fight to the death. It's survival of the fittest.
Julian,
Gingrich is also, Gingrich, for all his pontificating and talking down to people, he's wrong on two really essential economic facts. When he talks about getting rid of the capital gains tax, he's actually wrong. The rule is if you earn your income, if you earn $1 million or even more or less from something that's known as private equity, your income is treated as capital gains. It's a loophole in the tax code. It's a giant loophole. That's what the president is trying to close. Gingrich is also taking credit for the incredible jobs record we had in the 1990s, and he's saying he is the one that balanced the budget. He's the one that brought about economic growth. Anybody that was there that experienced it, and I was there up close for each of the three major budget battles. They were in 1993, when not a single Republican voted for the budget, 1995, when Gingrich tried to close down the government and he lost that fight, and then in 1997, when Gingrich was talking about having Medicare wither on the vine. The three major budget fights in the 1990s that Gingrich now tries to take credit for, he actually lost all of those fights.
Julian, how dare you correct a historian? How dare you do that? Don't do that.
The news media is not, with all due respect to John King, it wasn't exactly a Tim Russert moment. When we went through impeachment, and again, I was the counsel at the committee when we went through impeachment, Gingrich repeatedly made an issue of Clinton's private and personal misconduct. And he constantly made that an issue. His hypocrisy is absurd. This idea on the lobbyists, the reason why Gingrich can claim he's a lobbyist is, again, because of another loophole. If you represent somebody like Fannie Mae and you devote less than 20% of your time to lobbying, you can say you're not a registered lobbyist. It doesn't mean that you're not lobbying.
Julian, I'm sick of you correcting the world's finest historian. And a final question.
I want the news media to do it.
I've had enough of this. Final question to you, Anna. What about about Mitt Romney? Because if Newt Gingrich has everything out there, we know he's fairly nasty. He's very well known. All the public polling suggests that the majority of people loathe the man. But Mitt, people just don't know the man.
And what they do know, they're apparently not liking very much. I mean, it's incredible when you look at his ratings with swing voters and middle-class voters, that his disapproval rating has risen something like 20% just in the past 2 months. So I think it's either that they're either getting to know him and not liking him, or I think more likely is that they're feeling like they're not getting to know him. Is that all they see is this very rehearsed guy who, when he's somehow pushed off message, fumbles into the truth somehow, like I only pay, 15%. I earned a little bit of money from speaking fees.
I like firing people.
I like firing people.
Unemployed.
I'm unemployed. And that's, I feel kind of bad. I have to say I feel almost bad for him if he wasn't so extremely wealthy. Because I don't think he's a bad man.
I think you might be just envious of him.
Now, please, we've had enough of this. Julian Epstein, Joy Ann Reid and Anna Marie Cox, thanks so much. And Anna, you must come back in person again.